Welcome to the David Curtin Show today, and I am delighted to have on someone who was on my show when I did it last year, who is Kim Isherwood. Now, Kim Isherwood runs Public Child Protection Wales and is fighting doing amazing work in terms of trying to protect children from the agendas which are coming at them. And children are under attack in so many different ways that we know about. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the conversation, because Kim has got so much good work that she's doing, and she can tell us about the battlefronts that are raging in the United Kingdom and what she's doing to protect children from those things. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. As always, it's a privilege and a pleasure.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show. Now, when did you start up Public Child Protection, by the way? Because obviously we know children have been under attack from so many different things for such a long time. But when did you start it up, and what specific thing were you trying to address when you started it up?
So myself, I do a lot of work in the family courts and social services, additional needs in schools. So kind of my work in the past, nothing's changed for me. But what happened was we discovered that the Welsh Government were bringing in a new sex education from age 3 to 16 with no parental opt-out. This was a global sex education that hit the whole of the UK in different stages. And we began fighting against that. So we began fighting that in June 2020. And when we realized exactly what was going on, we couldn't possibly do the work we do in our own lives and fight the RSE. We had to bring everything under one banner. So Public Child Protection Wales was established in October 2020. Our main focus really was the relationship and sexuality education. We took the government to court, the Welsh Government, trying to protect parental rights. And the Welsh Government successfully argued that there's no such thing as parental rights. So nobody has parental rights. They used case law from Europe to apply to us here in Wales to prove parents' rights don't exist. And I do have a letter from a parent in England where the head teachers in England are now applying and quoting great big paragraphs from our case law and using it against parents in England. So bottom line here is we won the argument. We proved it was global. We proved all 4 countries in the UK had adopted this, but we lost the argument on parental rights. So all we have is parental responsibility. And in layman's terms, parental responsibility is simple. You've got access to your own children. And if you are not dancing to the tune of the government, that is why your parental responsibility comes under threat. So they're going to remove your children, So that's pretty much what the basis of our fight is. We want to protect children, make sure they're safeguarded, keep children out of the system, That is the crux of what we do here, David.
This is absolutely horrendous. It sounds like something that's straight out of the Communist Manifesto, where they've changed what people think. People, we believe that parents are the primary educators of their children, that you have parents' rights. You have the final say in what happens to your children. But they've changed the law. You've got this case law now where essentially the state can override parents' rights and say, well, we have the final say in what happens to your children. And if you don't subject your children to all of this sexualization that's going on in schools and all this transgender agenda, then they can come in with social services or whatever and take your children away. I mean, is that the situation? Because if it is, that sounds horrendous.
So that absolutely is the situation. And, I've got a really good example where the local authorities, so social services, have acted as militant agents on behalf of other great establishments, within society. So whether that's health, education or whatever, the local authority, the social services are acting as militant agents. We're not seeing child-centered care. We're not seeing any child protection, children not being offered the right services for their age. And I have referred to social services as militant agents, in lots of documents now.
Yeah. No, I know that you've been active in actually trying to help a specific child where the health officials from the NHS and the social services work together to try to do something absolutely horrible to a young girl from South Wales. And, I came to the courts with you and some other people who were trying to protect her from essentially being mutilated. Can you tell us a little bit more about that case and why it was so horrendous and what these government agents were trying to do?
Okay, so this is not second-hand news. This has come from the court documents that I've read with my own eyes. So a young 14-year-old girl found a lump in her breast. There was discharge from the nipple, which is concerning. Mum and the girl went to the GP, and then they got referred to the Noah's Ark Children's Hospital in Cardiff, which, that is an appropriate way to go. However, the breast centre in Landock, so Cardiff and Vale University Health Board, they wanted this child under their care. So there was a discussion over the phone where they said things like, we won the argument with Noah's Ark Hospital and we are taking over this child's care. So the child had gone to the service, age 14. They had given her a biopsy, and this lump is benign. It's a fibroadenoma. So any female out there watching this now, there's thousands and thousands of women, fibroadenomas, and a lot of them cannot get them removed, okay? So cut a long story short, the child was uncomfortable in this service from very early on. After they had promised her this biopsy wasn't going to hurt, she felt a lot of discomfort and she didn't like it there. She left one day saying she wasn't going to return. So Mum persuaded the child to go back to see a different consultant, and on this occasion they were met by two consultants, and they didn't want the family to have any support to go in there, and they were pushing for a mastectomy. So on this particular occasion, they started talking about a mastectomy on a lump which is benign, which is related to diet, hormones, lots of different things. It's a clump of cells. That's all it is. They also were speaking about referring it to the Teenage Cancer Trust, and they started showing her mastectomy bras. So they were pushing for another biopsy, and the child didn't want this other biopsy. But the surgeons were already talking about mastectomies. They'd already scared her. So Mum was trying to keep the peace, and she was saying, look, we try some home natural remedies as well, trying to keep the doctors happy, trying to keep her daughter stable. Never been in this situation before. Mum didn't realize, that this child needs a pediatric service. This is where the doctors should have realized. So what the surgeons did, they actioned child protection investigation against the mother to remove her two youngest children. Wow. So if the mother did not override her child's consent on another biopsy, which was then going to lead to removing the lump, and if they deemed that lump too big, they were going to go for mastectomy. Now, these particular surgeons have admitted they have no expertise in dealing with patients of this age. So who is going to say this lump is too big, and who is going to go for that mastectomy? So when you're having operations and these procedures done, you don't go under the knife when you just sign for one thing. The surgeons will explain to you, we may need to do X, Y, Z. So you sign for what you may need. And they wanted full consent for a mastectomy. So one thing led to another. The last going off, social services turned up on a Friday evening and said, you've got till Monday to consent to a biopsy, or we are taking you for separation of the children. Little did the parent know that the NHS had already filed to the High Court in London for a mastectomy. So the social workers turned up on the Monday morning, and they had petrified this child into consenting to always a biopsy. The social worker was recorded that day, misleading the family, saying it's a biopsy, and if it's benign, then they can do what they want afterwards. They don't have to have any operations, while knowing full well they had filed for permission for a full mastectomy. At that point, a group of us did intervene, and we advised the family to fight, because we couldn't give them an inch. They were already taking a mile, David. If they could have taken our young girl's healthy breast at the age, she's 15 now, she's 16 in March coming, if they could have taken our healthy breast, that would have created case law for any child in this country, gender confused or otherwise, you know. Thankfully, as you know, you were in the court, and we had a common sense judge, High Court judge, who, when he walked in that court, he absolutely wiped the floor with them, and he said, I am not ordering a mastectomy here today. You know, so the breast has been saved. The best thing we could have done was go to London. As you know, there was 17 of us there, including yourself. The judge invited the child in, and all the judge did was apologize to the child for what she had to hear. She is now today having a pre-op assessment in a hospital up in Buckinghamshire. The NHS tried to interfere with our private consultation, but that backfired, because the private surgeon we had gone to see, she ended up in the second court hearing, and she heard what social services and the NHS had to say, and none of it was accurate. So before I finish, I just want to point something out. This went into court as a medical emergency, okay? A medical emergency. So this is NHS Wales saying it's a medical emergency. We took her to a private consultant up in London who did her training at Royal Marsden's. The court sent us to Royal Marsden, so we got 3 surgeons who can offer the operation 3 different ways. That's their clinical opinions, okay? To date, we haven't had a single test result in that court. We do not have a scan report, only the ones that we've put in. We do not have biopsy results. So here we are. They wanted the children to go into care on the 18th of December of this medical emergency that we don't actually have any medical evidence for.
Well, I mean, this is absolutely staggering. You know, what the first question is, why would anyone want to remove a breast from a 14-year-old girl when it was completely not necessary, when this tumor was benign? There was absolutely no need for it. And then for them, on top of that, to start making threats against the family and against the parents, particularly the mother, saying that she's a bad mother and they're going to take these children into care if she doesn't stop trying to protect her own child from, you know, being mutilated essentially by the NHS. I mean, this is where you've got state agents actually doing things which are harmful, or trying to do things which are harmful, and then threatening to ruin a family by taking the kids away from their parents. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting and tyrannical, in my view.
This isn't just morally wrong. Let's look at the legalities here. This is a child who had already displayed that she was guilt competent. She had consented to a biopsy. She then refused to see this consultant. She then accepted to see another consultant. She had gone to a private clinic. So they were forcing this mother to do something that only a court can do anyway. They were asking this mother to go against this child guilt competence she's got no grounds to. You know, so they were asking her to do something which legally she couldn't do. And if she wasn't prepared to do it, then she'd have to lose her 2 youngest children. This is not a woman who has all young children. She's got 4 altogether, 2 girls in their 20s, a girl who is 16 in March, and a 12-year-old who for a month was too scared to go to school because she believed social services were going to take her.
I just think it's a little bit ironic talking about guilt competence here, which is the idea that some children from the age of 14, I think, are able to decide From 12, okay, thanks.
12.
From 12, they're able to decide what happens to their own, in terms of their own medical treatment. They've got medical autonomy from the age of 12. But here you've got a 14-year-old that they want to mutilate, and they want to try to override her Gillett competence. But then when you've got the whole question of gender surgery and gender injections and giving people, hormone puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, they insist that children from the age of 12 have Gillett competence, and they don't want to bring the parents into it. So it's like it's they try one rule for one and another rule for another, depending on what they are trying to do and how they're trying to ruin people's lives, it seems to me.
We've got examples where, and this is something that I learned in your conference. We have got examples where the NHS are pumping propaganda into schools, telling children they are now in charge of their own medical care. They don't have to follow the values of their family. And I think there was one 10-year-old child who was sent a letter from the GP practice saying that they can take over their own medical care. This is insane. These children have rights when these rights align to an agenda. As a mother of an additional needs child who fought daily for my son to have his rights, these rights only exist when they align to an agenda, David.
Yes, they chop and change, and they use them when it suits their agenda, and when it doesn't, then they say, "Oh no, you don't have those rights anymore." But we're talking about teenagers here, but I'm still concerned that they're still going for the very youngest of children and trying to push this comprehensive sexuality education agenda. And as you said earlier, it's in every part of the United Kingdom. It's the Tories that introduced it in England initially, and Labour in Wales, the SNP in Scotland, and again it was the last Tory government that imposed it on Northern Ireland against the wishes of the people in Northern Ireland. But there has been a lot of pushback against this now. But where do you think we are? I mean, has the pushback against it been effective? Are we able to protect children from being exposed to these kind of lesson contents, and particularly children's picture books that portray, boys dressing up as girls, and, girls, dressing up as boys and binding their breasts and all these kind of things that portray this as glamorous to children? Or are these things still going into classrooms now?
They're going in harder and faster than ever. So we have, as you know, we have a load of NGOs out there, a load of activists who are taking on these roles. They're going into schools, they're delivering stuff the way that they see fit. This is happening a lot. And what you would have seen recently is the schools bill now coming in. There is an almighty power grab on all children, regardless what they are being taught. We as a nation should now be concerned. I was concerned 4 years ago, but now seeing what's actually going on here, I get no joy out of seeing our predictions actually come into force. I think we should all be concerned, and I think it's only a matter of time. Well, I hope everybody's going to stand up really soon, because we cannot fight these battles as individuals. They take up a lot of time, they take up a lot of space, and they're also very expensive, and if you are individually targeted by the state for something that you don't like, that's when you can be taken down. So people need to be ahead of the game. They need to read up on what's going on. They need to watch these political debates, watch our children being used as political ping pong. We need to act. I don't think the war's actually started yet, David. I thought we were in the thick of it 3 years ago. I don't even think we were getting warmed up. I think we're going to have to really come together as a force, because this stuff is not going away anywhere soon. We've had the Cass report. What has that given us? We've had the public inquiry, Rishi Sunak. He didn't publish that because it wasn't in the public interest. Our case didn't get the appeal. It wasn't in the public interest. The Department for Education wasn't taken to court through an allowed fee because it wasn't in the public interest. Well, when the public become interested, that's when we'll see some change. Until then, unfortunately, this is damage limitation. Our children under attack.
It's horrendous, Kim. You know, and I think, you know, ultimately we got to get rid of these people in positions of power. And it doesn't matter
Yeah.
whether they're Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green, they're all pushing this agenda. They all want this for some perverted reason. I don't know why any sensible, sane, reasonable person would want to sexualize children like this. But there are some wicked, wicked people. And we're actually seeing now, you know, some politicians being exposed for, you know, things that they've done with children, which are absolutely horrendous, you know. And you know, so that's what I think. I mean, have we got some chance of actually at some point getting rid of these people and actually getting good, decent, wholesome people into Parliament, into the Welsh Senate, into Holyrood that will uphold traditional family values?
I think so, but what we're struggling with here, we've got the clowns have confidence, and we have really good people who lack confidence. So the everyday person doesn't believe that they could sit in public office when they've got far more to offer. You know, I think it's about giving our own people the confidence to stand up, really breaking it down. You know, stripping these things back, because we can't allow these white collar crooks to be held up on a pedestal, you know. So I think it's about educating people. I think people need a bit of confidence, David. They need to understand what kind of power they've got. Because what I am seeing right now is everybody's looking for a savior. If somebody's saying the right things, you know, they're getting all the follows. It needs to be the people. And unfortunately, I think it's going to have to take some harm before people actually respond, you know. In my experience, when things go viral and really take off, it comes from somebody really unexpected, you know, somebody that doesn't usually rant about things. And I think if we can get those people off the ground, encourage them that they've got a lot more power than what we think we've got, I think we could be successful. I also think as well, if we, like you said, you know, we drop these colours now in these parties, and if we could view the world through a lens, a simple lens of human race, human disgrace, you know, and if we put those people into those two brackets and say, where do you stand, you know, I think we'll find a lot more people stand on the human race side, and that's what we need to work with, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're doing fantastic work with Public Child Protection Wales. I know you're growing. You got more people and more supporters doing things, and you're going to have a conference soon. I think which is your first ever conference, which sounds like a really going to be a fantastic day. Tell us a bit more about that.
So our conference, because we are Public Child Protection Wales, our conference is a little different to the ones that we've been to. So we go to conferences, it's got lots of different topics about different things in the agenda. Ours is purely on the children. So obviously we've got the RSE, the sex education. We've got people less. We want to show our journey. We want to be able to show where the money's being spent, so the public funds, because what we actually do, cases that we see is going to impact the country, we will fund reports for children, therapies for children, scans, petrol to get the children to private meetings and things like that. So we want to be able to showcase the work we've done, show the court cases we've run that we haven't been able to speak about because it's confidential. So we've got two barristers there, Paul Diamond, the People's Barrister, and Dr. Anna Loutfear. We do actually have two mums there speaking, so you'll hear from the mum of the case we've just discussed with the breast. She's never spoken publicly before, she'll be there.
Wow.
We've got a mum who has been safeguarding a load of disabled children in South Wales, and their parents aren't even aware of it because of her bravery in taking Vale local authority to tribunal. We are showcasing our coalition. So our coalition is 17 parent RSE groups around the UK. So you've got the Showman ladies there, Too Much Too Young. We have Azar Mahmood from Birmingham, the Birmingham guys who kicked it off. Dr. Lisa Noland, who's a sex historian. We've got a fantastic researcher here, Nigel Thorne. He'll be speaking. So we really do have, we want to show people, it's not just about showing the dangers. The dangers are within the stories anyway, you know. But we want to open people's eyes to, we're introducing two new topics, the health propaganda and the effects on radiation to the developing brain. So yeah, we are, hopefully it'll be a really good day. We got some fantastic speakers. It's our first ever time to do it ourselves. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to pull it off, David. Fingers crossed.
Fantastic. It sounds like it's going to be a really, really good day, and I'll put a link to that, in the boxes underneath sort of the video channels that I put this on. But look, just before we go, Kim, I'd like to ask you about one other thing that's slightly different, but it does involve children as well. I think sometimes, this is such a huge issue, the sexualization of children in schools, but there are 20 other huge issues coming our way all the time, and I think that's why sometimes it's hard to focus on one, because where our attention is like diverted to this is a big issue here, immigration, and then there's the grooming gangs, and then there's fires, and then there's the economic disaster, the farms, and all these kind of things. But there is something that is going around at the moment that I know a lot of people are quite disturbed about, and very worried about how this impacts on children. And this is the Wales Refugee Council. And they put out a video encouraging refugees or asylum seekers to come to Wales, but it uses some 12-year-old girls in order to promote the video. And I'm just going to play this here, and afterwards let me know what you think.
Shemai. Hello and welcome to Wales. We understand being a refugee isn't easy. They go through so much.
Fleeing your country is difficult, but Wales wants to help you feel welcome.
The Welsh Refugee Council is here to help you. You can contact them here.
Wales is seen as a nation of sanctuary. We welcome anyone and everyone. We recognise your skills and talent.
The Welsh Refugee Council offers a lot to support, including
ESOL classes, which means English for Speakers for Other Languages. It may be hard to learn our language, so we offer support. Employment. You may feel stressed about employment, but we can help. They help you to apply for bank accounts, child benefits, and they can help with housing. It's very important to have a warm place that you can call home. Education. Children have the right to education. Play for children. We know how important it is for children to socialise. Help finding doctors. It's extremely important to have healthcare.
Not only this, but Wales offers free education and healthcare.
There are many job opportunities here in Wales. IKEA works closely with the Welsh Refugee Council, providing jobs for refugees that come from all over the world.
On the screen now are some basic Welsh phrases.
Shemai.
Hello.
Borda.
Good morning.
Prenanda.
Good afternoon.
Nosta.
Good night.
Sitoiti.
How are you?
We understand that you have been through a lot, and that is why the Welsh Refugee Council is here to help you.
Thank you for listening.
To me, that is quite shocking, because they're using school children to make a video, and it is mostly going to go to foreign men, I imagine. But they're saying on there, come to Wales. You can get housing, education, English language lessons, healthcare, child support, all of these things, where there's not enough of this for local Welsh people to begin with. I mean, what do you think of this video here, Kim?
Well, that's not the first time it's happened. So the Welsh Government actually put out a similar video about a year ago. So I'm not really surprised. That school is the next local authority to where I'm living. It is the local authority where my children went to school. And that school actually has a history with its staff. So that school does have a history of sex abuse taking place as well. So I'm not really surprised, because these people, there's no convictions that come from that. And I just had to double check that I was actually right. It was the same school who have a history of sex abuse taking place. So do you know what? I'm absolutely not surprised. But as a Welsh citizen, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the Welsh people, our reading and writing results have gone right down, David. Our children are not being taken care of. All of our local schools are being bulldozed. The school that I went to, we now have children travelling 55 minutes just to attend school down here in the town. The road they travel on, every single time there's a flurry of snow in Wales, that road is brought to a standstill. It's a very dangerous road. You can't even it had to be redone to hold the buses. So the state on play in Wales is, we are a test bed. So if anybody out there is hearing stories about Wales that you do not like, then I would follow and I would act, because what's happening here will be applied to you. And you know, I might be going off track a bit here. Even look at the rollout of universal credit and things like that. It all happens here in Wales. So don't feel sorry for us. Get on the defensive, get yourselves organised, because they use us here to apply everywhere else, you know, and it's absolutely disgusting. I do know we have some independent councillors out there doing what they can, challenging what they can, but we're being overpowered by the Labour machine, you know. Even the media is all on the side of Labour, and we're not getting anywhere fast, you know. So don't pity us. Get yourselves organised, because everything you see happening here may already be happening to you out there.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I mean, I think, you know, you've said it all there. The government should be looking after their own people before they consider, you know, giving loads of money to other people coming in. If they can't look after their own children, they're not going to be able to look after asylum seekers very well. And we know that Wales has been, you know, cursed, I suppose, by a Labour government in Wales since the Welsh Senedd began back in 1999 or 2000, I think. And now there's a Labour government for the whole of the UK as well. So England is falling very, very hard and very, very fast at the moment. So we can see what's happening. We need to get in there and get rid of these people so that they stop the rot and we can rebuild and restore our nation. And I think we both agree on that with our own respective things. You doing Public Child Protection Wales. I'm, of course, run the Heritage Party too. But Kim, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And thank you for all you do. You do great work there in Wales, which is an inspiration to everybody who wants to know how to take action. So good to have you on the show, Kim.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for everything. As always, from day one, you've been a great support to us. You've given us a platform every chance you can, and it really has paid off. You know, we couldn't have done half of this without you, so thank you very much.
You're welcome, Kim. And thank you, my viewers, for joining me today on the David Curtin Show. See you again soon. Thank you.